Good day. It's been the continuation of an explosive week in Russia. And not just because on June 1st, Ukraine struck Russia's strategic bombers, but today, on June 3rd, at exactly 4:44 a.m., Ukraine security service, the SBU, detonated over 1,100 kilograms of underwater explosives, targeting the support pillars of the Kerch Bridge. That's the bridge that connects mainland Russia to Russian-occupied Crimea. Now, no civilians were harmed, but the structural foundations of Russia's most critical military logistics artery has been left in, quote, emergency conditions. And this is Ukraine's third attack on the bridge. In October 2022, Ukraine struck the Kerch Bridge using a truck bomb. In July 2023, a naval drone struck the Kerch Bridge. And now, on June 3rd, underwater demolition came to pay a visit to the Kerch Bridge. And this proves that Ukraine can strike at the very heart of Russia's infrastructure, even underwater. And they can do it right under the noses of Russia's most elite security forces. My name is Jason Smart. I'm a special correspondent for the Kyiv Post and a political scientist who focuses on Russia, specifically the Putin regime. And the massive explosions that we see rocking Russia right now, they're not just taking out airfields and infrastructure. They're destabilizing the Kremlin from within. And behind the scenes, there's a brutal power structure that's erupted. And right now, Russia's military and Russia's FSB are at each other's throats. There's finger pointing, witch hunts. It's just total chaos. But before we dive in, please take a moment to like this video, to share it with others, and to subscribe to this channel. It helps get the truth out to more people. And the more people that see this, the more people that know the truth, the harder it becomes for the Kremlin to hide what is really transpiring now within Russia. So let's dive in. What's occurred today? Well, first, let's look at the context. As you recall, it was just 2 days ago that Ukraine conducted the largest strategic drone strike of the entire war. That attack, also by Ukraine's SBU, destroyed over 40 Russian warplanes. That includes strategic bombers and other aircraft that is used in Russia's nuclear triad. Moreover, Ukraine successfully attacked a nuclear submarine facility in the Arctic. The attacks on these aircraft and on that facility, they were strategic, not just tactical. Now, many have said, myself included, that the value of those aircraft destroyed was over $7 billion. But the reality is actually a little bit different. Those aircraft are quite literally priceless. Russia's defense industry simply cannot build more A-50s or Tupolev 22s. Many of those Soviet factories simply have closed forever. Some of them still exist that produce some of the parts that those airplanes use, but they're outside of the modern boundaries, the borders of post-Soviet Russia. Russia doesn't have access to either the facilities or the parts necessary to rebuild those aircraft. They're lost. They're gone. Perhaps forever. So this has set Russia back for more than a decade. There is no chance that they will be able to get those airplanes back anytime soon. But let's talk about today's big attack. So first, we have to understand that today's attack, it matters. It matters tactically, strategically, as well as symbolically. The Kerch Bridge is Russia's only direct land link to Crimea. It's used to move fuel, it's used to move troops, ammunition, but it's also used to maintain command and control over southern Ukraine. Now, militarily, it's the backbone of Russia's logistics in the south. But politically, the bridge is also key. It's one of Putin's flagship projects. It opened in 2018 and was meant to be a symbol of his claim over Crimea. And that's why every strike weakens Russian morale. And it also proves Ukraine can hit Russia where it hurts. Air, land, sea, and now subsurface. Ukraine is showing precision dominance across all the domains. So what's the reaction within Russia? Russian military bloggers are at each other's throats as well. So Rybar, a top pro-Kremlin and pro-Russian Telegram channel, says, quote, The fact that the bridge was attacked for the third time indicates a systemic failure in our defense mechanisms. Questions must be asked about the effectiveness of our security services. Two majors, another pro-Kremlin Telegram channel, said, quote, "This is not just an attack on infrastructure, it's an attack on our national pride. The FSB and the military leadership must answer for this negligence." And that's part of the larger institutional war that we are seeing now break out within Russia. There's a bitter fight between the military and the intelligence services. Each side knows that these failures will be investigated, but also knows that if there's an investigation, it won't just reveal failures. It will expose massive corruption. So the military fears scrutiny. Why? Well, because it knows very well there's entire brigades, radar, air defense systems that only exist on paper. Why? Because the funds meant for that defense, they were embezzled, stolen. And the FSB is no different. They claim to run expensive spy networks, but since their sources are classified as state secrets, they just pocket the money. And we saw that exact pattern before the full-scale invasion. Putin thought Ukraine's military had been bought off because his own intelligence services told him so. But the truth? Those intelligence services had stolen the bribe money, and they lied to Putin. So when the war began, Russia took a beating. It got clobbered. But who wants to take the blame for that? And that's why today, both the military and the FSB are scrambling, not to fix the system, not to improve their national security, but to protect themselves, to cover up their own corruption. So how will they answer Putin? How will they explain what's transpired? Which raises a different question. Where is Putin? So as of this recording, as of right now, Vladimir Putin has said nothing in the past couple of days. No televised appearances, no statements, no visiting the airfields nor the bridge. And that's not the first time that we've seen Putin vanish. We saw that same pattern in July 2023 after the Kerch attack. There was 48 hours of silence. In 2024, when the Kremlin drone attack, there was 72 hours he went totally off the grid. And when Yevgeny Prigozhin, one of the leaders of the Wagner Group, led a full-scale mutiny, Putin totally disappeared. So Putin's absence is fueling further confusion and fear inside of the Kremlin because his silence or disappearing is perceived not as strength, but as a weakness. Because the so-called strongman, he's missing when his regime is most exposed. And there are reasons for Putin to be afraid. Very good reasons. Because right now, the Russian system is cannibalizing itself. The FSB is up against the general staff of the military. The Telegram channels that are backed by the military are attacking the defense ministry. Local officials are blaming Moscow for failing to protect Putin's bridge. But everyone's asking, who's responsible? And that question alone proves why Russia's so vulnerable. Ukraine isn't just breaking Russian defenses, it's breaking their unity. It's causing tremendous infighting. So what's the takeaway from this? Well, clearly, as we see today, Ukraine can win. But it can only win if we stop tying its hands behind its back. And despite having just 22 million people in free, unoccupied territory, Ukraine is holding its ground. And it's striking deep, deep inside of Russia. Keep in mind, Russia is 140 million people against Ukraine's 22 million people in the unoccupied territories. Russia, the world's largest country in history by landmass, is taking a beating. David is beating Goliath. Now, imagine what Ukraine could do if it had our full support. What we are seeing today is truly classic asymmetry victory. Ukraine's attack on critical infrastructure has been low cost. They use drones worth hundreds or a couple $1,000s to destroy infrastructure, or to destroy aircraft that have a value of the hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. Destroying this bridge is not something that Russia can quickly fix. This is going to set Russia back in the long term. The results, the secondary results of the attacks, for instance, on the airfields on June 1st, include things like all of the trucks around Russia now being stopped for inspection. That's creating choke points. That's creating huge traffic. That's creating delays. It's hurting business. And it's creating just a general mess across Russia. But Russia doesn't know what else to do. Right now, Russia is overreacting. And it's panicking. And ultimately, it's collapsing inwards. This week alone has proven that no part of Russia is safe. Putin can't even protect his nuclear bombers. He cannot protect his signature bridge. He can't even protect his own regime from itself. So though Putin wants to look like the strong guy and he likes to play tough, he's again been exposed. His regime was again caught off guard. And again, the myth of Russian strength and power has been shattered. The world has now seen for itself that in fact, rather than being a strong guy, rather than having a regime that's undefeatable, the Putin regime is weak and it's brittle. And right now we see that it is breaking. And as I've said for years, Ukraine can certainly win, but it cannot win if it takes the war, keeps the war in the confines of Ukraine's front lines. Victory requires breaking the system behind the war, the Putin regime. And it means political and economic pressure, not just missiles. Because dictatorships like the Putins, they don't collapse from outside force alone, though. They collapse due to the rot that existed within. That rot has eaten away the foundations of the regime, something that Ukraine should exploit and something the West should exploit to make sure that the Putin regime comes tumbling down. Fortunately, what we see within Russia are signs of that's exactly what's happening. And there's more coming. I think in the next few days, there will be some really big updates as Putin's regime is on very thin ice. So if you haven't already, please like this video, share it with others, and please subscribe to this channel. It helps get the truth to others, and the truth really does make a difference. As always, thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting Ukraine.